So, in non-NBA basketball news, Michael Beasley just signed a multi-year contract with the Shanghai Sharks. And Michael Beasley, for people who remember, he was the number 2 pick of the 2008 draft after having a phenomenal freshman year at the Kansas State University. Him and Bill Walker, two outstanding freshmen, led Kansas State, I think, to the second round. I don't remember if they made it to the Sweet 16 now, but I know they definitely made it to the second round. And Michael Beasley is one of those players who, although his talents and skill set might not have always showed up to their fullest potential, everybody agrees that Michael Beasley is an amazing basketball player regardless of what he did on the NBA court. And a lot of NBA players will actually vouch for that as well with Michael Beasley.
Yeah, I can't remember if he played in China or not, but it's not surprising he was there to get the deal that he got over there. So he got a 7-figure deal to go play over there, and I wouldn't be surprised to hear that he's averaging like 30 points per game over there. Always was a good scorer, a good rebounder. So I always say if players want to get back in the NBA, because he still got some NBA years left. He had his last couple years, he had that really good year with New York, and then he went to LA and went through some different stuff with like his mom passing and stuff like that. But I always say the best thing to do is to still be playing. So, and for him, I don't even know if I know he wants to go back to the NBA, but I think overall he just want to play basketball too. So, Go over there, make a quick check, average 30. He might win MVP, probably win the championship over there.
All right.
So salute to Michael Beasley. He definitely, one of those your Hooper's favorite Hooper type of guy.
Surely, and with that being said, I'm Jon Dubya.
It's fresh hits.
And we are the Hoopers. And just, for everybody that's familiar, Shanghai Sharks have signed a lot of former NBA players to contracts they going on over there to win MVPs and championships. I think Stephon Marbury might be the one who stands out the most because of his run over there with that team. And what he got? One of them got like 4, 5, 6 MVPs or something like that.
Yeah, I know he got a couple of MVPs, but mainly he won like all the championships he got over there, and he got a statue and stuff. Nobody quite embraced it over there like Starberry did, but just in their CBA overall, the Chinese Basketball Association, you've seen J.R. Smith go over there, Jeremy Lin, Jimmer Fredette, who's probably, as far as American players, the next biggest after Starberry, because he was over there averaging 40 too, and winning, competing for championships. Remember Tracy McGrady for a year went over there, average 40. So yeah, a lot of NBA players go over there because the CBA, just the Chinese basketball overall, ever since Yao Ming in particular, have always just had a hunger for basketball, for good basketball. It's a league that clearly interacts with like the NBA too. They play like NBA games in the preseason and stuff like that. So they got decent TV deals and things like that. So it's money in the CBA.
No, yeah, for sure is. And just back to the NBA Finals, of course, Boston Celtics took a 1-0 lead Friday night, picking up a late, I don't want to call it a blowout because they really didn't get to that until the end of the game. But Boston definitely picked up a big win. That game, when Jason Tatum didn't have the best game scoring wise, at 12 points, but he picked up 13 assists as well. Jaylen Brown had 25 points. Al Horford knocked down some big shots. Derek White has been knocking down big shots since the birth of his son, almost like a Fred VanVleet Part 2 situation. And I think some people are surprised that Boston got this win, but I know a lot of people, we've been paying attention to Boston, not just in the playoffs, but all year. Boston has been a really good team, especially defensively, and if Boston can hang around in there, they have the offensive firepower as well that can carry them to a late victory win, especially when players are hitting their shots. And Jaylen Brown was hitting his shots, and he's really a part of the reason that, Boston won that game, especially Golden State had got up big one last time, and he, with his scoring and his defense helped lead Boston to that comeback win. Just looking at that game, what did Boston do that you really stood out to you in getting that win?
For one, they were good shooting from the role players. The Warriors didn't make it that tough on them, but when you're getting 3-point shooting out of Derek White, Al Horford, and Marcus Smart, they all knocked down at least 4 threes. Marcus Smart hit 4, Derek White hit 5. I believe Al hit 6. So that shooting, especially in the fourth quarter in particular, they got some big shooting from Pritchard in the fourth quarter too. He hit I think 1 or 2 threes in there, but just being ready to shoot those shots and taking advantage of the Warriors not really trying to close out on them and almost not respecting their shots. I think defensively, and I think Jason Tatum did a good job of, like I said, he didn't shoot the ball well, but he did a good job of being a willing passer. 13 assists. He hit a lot of cutters when something wasn't there on the double teams and things like that. People like dive into the basket. He did a good job with that. Then defensively, I thought they did a terrible job of guarding Steph earlier. Going under the picks, miscommunication with what they wanted to do, especially in that first quarter, which is why Steph was able to get off to making 6 threes. But I think they pretty much played solidly everywhere else. They made Draymond into a scorer. They didn't really let him get some of those passes he liked to get. Made him shoot the ball. He took 12 shots. He made 2 of them. 4 threes. He didn't make no threes or whatever. So forcing him to be able to score instead of just like slice your team up with passes, I think was important. They did really well of just like staying home on Jordan Poole too, not letting him get off. But Jordan Poole gets open a lot, like with his dribbles, and when you play against Boston, they're gonna switch every pick, so they were real solid, like with switching and just making him see extra bodies and stuff like that. So defensively, they played really well, but I just think knocking down those threes, being ready to make those buckets. I think Al Horford, for one, tried to make it really known to Draymond earlier in the game that, like, you're too small to guard me. I may not be the offensive go-to person on this team, clearly, but I was a scorer once upon a time in this league, and you're just too small to guard me as a big man.
Nah, for surely. Boston defense definitely, like I say, been the best defense. I've been one of the best, if not the best defenses all year. Definitely made it tough on everybody, not named Steph, who I don't want to say it was game plan. It was definitely a lot of miscommunications, especially in some of those drop coverages. As a lot of teams like to run regardless of who's the ball handler in the pick and roll, which led to a lot of easy open looks. And if you're Steph and the Warriors, and you see Steph is going, he's going the way he's going, the NBA Finals record, 6 threes in the first quarter, 21 points. You expect to get that win because you expect somebody else to come and play along with him. Andrew Wiggins had 20 points, but I think Otto Porter ended up going 4 for 6 from the 3-point line, but nobody else that needed to bring any offensive numbers really stepped up. And of course, Klay, who, like I say, he's at this point in the season he is ready to go, but he hasn't played in 2 years. Do you think having to also guard Jaylen Brown kind of slowed some Klay up as well, because he had to work defensively as well, and he can just kind of get to his spots on the 3-point line on offense?
Well, Klay didn't have the worst game to me. He was like 6 for 14. He made 3 of his threes. So, but playing the defense, he made it tough for Jaylen, because Jaylen had 20, but he took about 20 shots to get there. I just think what was missing from them mainly offensively was you didn't get nothing out of Jordan Poole, and they got some good buckets out of Wiggins, but he's the one that honestly gotta step up for their matchup, because a lot of times they was playing Wiggins with Derek White, and I just think that's something he gotta be able to win because he could shoot over him. Klay, like when they got him open for a couple down screens, I think he missed a couple threes that he probably wanted back, could have made, but like it was a few times they tried to put like Al Horford on him or even Robert Williams, and he made them pay on those. He went straight into the boom down and then pop up off the 3. He usually made those threes. Like I say, 3 for 7, 42% from 3 from Klay. Isn't the worst game that you could have from him or whatever. And like I said, Wiggins, he did have a big game, a solid game, I should say. Not a big game, but 8 for 15, 20 points. I just feel like it was open opportunity for Wiggins to have 25 points in this game, and that's what they kind of needed. And it's not that, he hasn't been that scorer. He averaged about 18 this year. So clearly he's not a 25 point per game scorer for them per se. But it's just when they go through those droughts and the threes aren't falling, he is kind of, other than Steph, the one person you think can make a move on his own and at least get in the paint and get a mid-range shot or a free throw shot. Because when the threes are falling, sometimes you just need an easier bucket.
Right, and then Jordan Poole is also one of those players who they expect to get some easy buckets, because not only is he shown they can be a good shooter, he also has been able to score off the dribble, whether it is getting to the basket or getting that jump shot off the step back. and of course he's the first player off the bench in that scoring option. With him not providing, like say, much offense for him that game, and Boston having a good game overall as a whole team, do you expect Steve Kerr to put Jordan Poole in some easier looks in game 2?
Yeah, they're going to have to get more out of him. Like you said, 9 points. I think he had 2 assists, 4 turnovers. Some of his shots just look really bad overall. It was like he was trying to find openings, but they weren't really there. And then I think for him, he just got to get off the ball at times. Like when it's not there, make your move. It's not there, pass the ball, reset, get it off of a pick or something. I know since he came off the bench, his role has been primary ball handler or whatever. But I think they need to run some of those actions during the year when he was playing with Steph, and he can get off the ball as well, because he just seemed like he just got stuck trying to make moves on his own. And if it's not falling, I mean, as you just said, get him something easier. Let him come off a pick one time and make a quick action and stuff like that. But yeah, they gotta find him something easier, because him just creating for himself the whole time, it definitely wasn't working yesterday. And I mean, you said before that other than the first round, he's kind of been up and down, more down in the playoffs. So I think easier buckets is definitely what Jordan Poole needs for sure.
All right, and like I say, Golden State also could never really pick up any momentum, no matter offensively or defensively. I know a couple times they got up by 10. I think the most they was up was 17 in the third quarter. But Boston kept fighting back. And you could say, like I said, they didn't necessarily have a bad offensive night. I think going into early in the first half, they had a set NBA record of 20 combined threes by both teams being made.
Yeah, they both were shooting like 48% at halftime, over 50%. So they overall shot solid.
Right. So when it's games like that, like I say, neither team is necessarily struggling, but neither team can really give any momentum. Of course, series had already started. Who does that kind of favor in your opinion, though, where it's going to be like we're both just playing good basketball and we can both get to our things a little bit more?
I mean, for this series, I would say it's Boston. Just because the Warriors, at the end of the day, I never put Steph just in the shooter category. He is the greatest shooter ever, though. But I never just consider him a shooter. He can get in the paint. He's gonna shoot a mid-range shot. He has a nice layup package and stuff like that. So never just consider him a shooter. But I don't think it's unfair to say that the Warriors is more perimeter based. I mean, a lot of times Steph, if you look at his field goals, it will be more threes than twos. Just because, I mean, that is his go-to, so it makes sense. But the whole point of that being, it's easier to go cold like that, or whatever. So as you say, with the momentum, who does favor? I think it favors the team that when you're struggling, Jason Tatum's struggling. I don't think he scored in the fourth quarter. He finished with 12 points, but you still had another player that can get in the paint, get to the line, and just even not even just how they're scoring, but just another score period, especially as Klay, he's getting back into it, but he's clearly still not where he was before, just as far as probably confidence, rhythm, and everything. He's still playing so much catch up even at this point. I wouldn't say now he's still worried about getting hurt or can he still do it. I think he's still the same player, but you're still just playing catch up, and then you're trying to embrace the moment and do it now in the finals. But I just think having Tatum and Jaylen Brown, two players that can. Mark Jackson said it during the broadcast. I know a lot of people you fall in love with Jason Tatum, the talent that he has and the things he can do, but especially just for stretches of the game, Jaylen Brown can do a lot of the same things that he could do. So like Jason Tatum didn't have it going yesterday. They started the fourth quarter with Jaylen as a primary offensive option, and he had 10 points in the early fourth. I don't think he scored again after 7 minutes, and he had 10 points in the fourth quarter. Because kind of out them they weren't missing at the end, so they was taking over. But that's why I think it favors Boston more, because they always say defense wins championships, and it sounds good, but the reason why scoring is always such a premium, because if it's 0-0, you just keep playing, so you need somebody that can at least get a bucket. So I think Boston have players that could get buckets. Wiggins could be that for the Warriors, but he hasn't been that since he's gotten there. He's had big games and stuff like that, obviously, but as far as somebody that can lead the offense. And we saw that in the fourth quarter with such a drought that the Warriors went on to just couldn't get a bucket. So I think that favors when it's not going right. I think it just favors the Celtics a little more.
And there's a few players from both teams who kind of stood out in different ways. A couple from Boston, like Jaylen Brown and Derek White. Jaylen Brown, like I say, who led a lot of their attack, helping them, putting them in position to make that comeback and get that win. Like say, 25 points to end the game off. Like say, a lot of times he can do a lot of things Jason Tatum can do on that offense. So they were able to rely on him early on in that fourth quarter to get that push. With Jaylen Brown is going like that, it's such a luxury because you don't want Jason Tatum to struggle. You don't want the defense to be so fully focused on stopping Jason Tatum because Jaylen Brown can get off. Jaylen Brown, I keep saying, is probably been the most important player for the Celtics in the playoffs because of how he plays, where that's getting him some looks down low on some mismatches or even taking players off the dribble when he's not falling in love with threes. A great mid-range shooter. Do you expect Jaylen Brown to be able to keep this up? Like say, because you don't expect Jason Tatum to keep struggling, but if Jason Tatum doesn't have one of these games where the defense kind of gets in his way offensively, scoring wise, do you think Jaylen Brown can keep it up for the Celtics? Maybe possibly pick up a series victory here.
Well, yeah. First of all, yes, and I mean you made a good point. I believe, and when we talked about before Game 1 about his matchup is because Wiggins is on Tatum. Wiggins was first team all defense right this year. So, and they're using Draymond as a floater. They're putting him on Marcus Smart. So they are putting him on Klay, and we know that Klay was a top defender before the injury. He's still solid now, but you're trying to catch up with 2 years of game shape. It doesn't matter how much in shape he is now. He's still not at the level that Jaylen and them are at right now. So kind of using him to directly go at that and win that matchup, which also makes Klay work offensively because it's double. Like a lot of people think, I was talking to one of my homies about Steph earlier, and people think that Steph gets picked on at times when he get picked on defensively is because he can't play defense, but it's like, no, it's because he's doing so much offensively, running around, running off picks, running the offense. If you're also making him guard the offensive person, you're just working him a lot. So wearing down to the hindsight of that, wearing down Klay like that, going at him one-on-one. Because when Jaylen gets it, he gets his picks, but it's really kind of him going at you. Sometimes he will shoot that three, as he fall in love with it a little too much at times. But he's really trying to get to the basket, get to the mid-range. So if you guarding Jaylen Brown, you kind of really working out there. And then Klay got to turn around and he's running off picks, and he uses a lot of energy offensively. So being aggressive with him from the start and then also making Klay work makes you make a decision on, all right, what we want to do with Draymond, because Draymond is supposed to be a defensive player of the year candidate, but if Jaylen keeps putting so much pressure on you offensively like that, and he had a good game and a tough game at the same time because he had finished with 24, but he took 23 shots. So it's like, that's what you want, but when he got that 10 in the fourth quarter, he wasn't taking. He was just getting to his spots and shooting, and when it's going, it's going. So you have to make a decision at times like, are we just going to let Draymond float around, or are we going to kind of make some adjustments with him guarding one of these players and then Wiggins continuing to guard one of them. And then you kind of go from there to ease it on Klay a little bit, because I wouldn't want to, if they're really going at Klay with Jaylen Brown, I would want to make an adjustment.
No, sure. Like I said, Derek White is the other player who came out and he not just hitting threes, but he was hitting big shots for them all night, playing great defensively for them. Derek White, who I think everybody said once he was acquired and had played a few games with Boston, was a great pickup for them at the trade deadline.
Yeah, it was obvious from the start.
Boston still doesn't, Boston also is a team that doesn't necessarily have a backup point guard. Peyton Pritchard is a point guard, but Derek White is the first guard off the bench on most rotational nights. How important is Derek guard as a lead guard, more as so being a scoring guard, the point guard for this Boston team?
Well, for one, he was also a great pickup from the start because everybody know that he came from the Spurs, and Ime Udoka came from the Spurs under Pop. He had some familiarity with him just coming from the Spurs. Udoka runs some Spurs type sets, so he was able to fit in seamlessly, and then he's gonna give you Defensively, he's going to play hard. He's going to try to take charges. He's going to be active. Offensively, he's typically going to make the right play, whether it's him taking a shot, him trying to get in the paint, making the pass, and stuff like that. He doesn't hold you back offensively. So he's been really important from all those standpoints because that's what he's bringing in for them. He can run their offense, but then he can also play off the ball. When Marcus Smart missed some games last series, they started Derek White at point guard, and everything just flowed because he's just a smart player overall. And he's also, you can't ignore him either. Even though he's probably not going to be the main offensive option out there, if you don't guard him, he will get 20 on you because he can play for real too. So yeah, he's a role player, but he can have those flashes where it's like, all right, I'll hold the offense down for a minute if you're not going to guard me.
Right.
I can make some threes, get in the paint, throw some lobs, get people open and stuff like that. So he just it's always good to have a player like Derek White, just a smart overall player. I know the joke is he's looking like Fred VanVleet after he had his kid. Remember the run that he went on in the conference finals and the finals, and since Derek White has had his kid, he's been on that as well.
No, yeah, for sure. Like I say, both those players were key. There was a lot of players that was key to Boston's victory. I think those two players were probably two of the more bigger parts, along with Al Horford and Robert Williams as well as a rim protector, and just as a vertical lob threat as well.
4 blocks,
keeping Golden State's defense honest. And from Golden State side, Draymond Green and Kevon Looney are two players who I feel like Kevon Looney played decently, but he wasn't allowed to do certain things, especially as far as getting offensive rebounds and keeping possessions alive, especially late in the game where he had been really showing, his value for Golden State in the playoffs, to where, even though he's not a, 6'11", 7-footer, he's definitely a sound rebounder. He boxes out. He takes up good space. He's even been good in certain, one-on-one switching defensive matchups, especially having to go up against that with Luka last round. Boston, who switches consistently on defense and who's, they're going to stick with their man in this Golden State offense regardless of, when Golden State gets into their splits or running a lot of the off-ball action. So even though Kevon Looney isn't going to be an offensive scorer for them, him not getting those offensive rebounds or defensive rebounds are important. And how do you think Steve Kerr is going to try to, I know you can't necessarily correct rebounding, but how do you think Steve Kerr is going to help make that a big factor as well? Because if Kevon Looney isn't getting rebounds, that means nobody on Golden State is probably getting rebounds.
I mean, he was solid rebounding, I think, because he did get 6 offensive rebounds. I think offensively, they just made them, some of the lineups that Kerr ran was different. He ran like some of the Iguodala lineups, and Iguodala hasn't played since who knows how long. He played solidly overall, but they went to a couple of lineups where it was Iguodala and Draymond, so that kind of I feel like they kind of took Looney out of it a little bit, honestly, because he was being active out there, and I said before the series that the Warriors aren't going to be able to go small too much with them because Boston feels good about their perimeter player, their bigs playing on the perimeter. And I think they went small a few times when they didn't necessarily have to, because they did I don't know if did they close both halves with it, but they did the Otto Porter, Draymond, and Iguodala lineup a few times, but I think they should have just played Looney or whatever. But I think Kerr figuring out some of his matchups with people he wants to play a little more. I think he got some clarity on how Iguodala looks, because he clearly wanted to see how he looked on the floor. Will give Looney a chance to be a little bit more active, because he could have finished with like 15 rebounds in this game.
And like I said, Draymond Green, like I said, who you said opening went 2 for 12, wasn't allowed to make plays offensively and wasn't really that sound defensively as well, letting Boston get layups and just leaving players open behind the 3-point line. Al Horford being one of his main, when he was playing one of his main matchups. What do you want to see Draymond Green do differently in Game 2?
It looked like Draymond's playing and trying to podcast at the same time. I want Draymond to focus on basketball. Like, he's out there, and even after the game, he's saying, he went straight to the stat sheet and said basically that Al Horford, Derek White, and Marcus Smart made 15 out of 23 threes. He bet that they won't do that again. But a lot of those threes that they made over Draymond because he wasn't closing out on them because he didn't respect their shots. And those players will make wide open shots, especially to me, Al Horford and Derek White in particular. I can see you gambling with Marcus Smart, but he's a player that's shown in the past as a guy that I've said in the past he shoots like he shoots threes like he shoots them like Steph, and he does it. He gonna take them shots, and he had them games, but he's gonna make 6 of them. You gotta at least close out on them. So I feel like Draymond just gotta be more into the game. I think he spent a lot of time. I feel like he really underestimated Boston. Like he said some of the right things. He obviously said that he thought that they would play Boston. I saw he did an interview with Malika, and he said all this. He knows what a championship team looked like, and et cetera, et cetera. But it looks like he not taking them serious. That he think that they could beat him. He didn't respect their role players a bit. So I just feel like they need Draymond to be locked in. Don't. First of all, make your open shots. Find wherever spot it is for you to get comfortable to make them shots, because he missed the open threes, he missed the open mid rangers, he missed open floaters. You had to make some of them shots, and that will then open up for him to make that pass that he want to make, because he always wants to make the extra pass, the back cut, the lob, or the kick out to the corner and stuff like that. But you gotta respect these Boston players because they're smart players. They're veteran players, which is the difference between this team and most young teams that make the finals for the first time. They got a good amount of veterans on there. And Boston is a team, they going to just play the right way overall. So Draymond got to respect them out there.
No, for sure. Like I said. And with Golden State, Gary Payton Jr., who was available to play in Game 1 but didn't play. I don't know if he's going to play Game 2 or not, but would you like to see him get in and play? Because defensively, Golden State is sound, honestly. Like, he's got to play, some minutes against Jason Tatum, whereas they basically shut Jason Tatum down for the most part. They left everybody else open. What's the real problem? But do you expect to see Jason Tatum, and I know, not Jason Tatum, excuse me, Gary Payton part 2, and would you like to see Jonathan Kuminga get some of those Iguodala minutes, even if it's the early Iguodala minutes and not the late game minutes?
I think Iguodala really took Gary Payton minutes, honestly. Then Otto Porter coming back a little bit too. But Otto Porter, if you just think about the season, Otto Porter's been in the rotation all year. Iguodala played 30 games. He's literally not a part of their rotation. He hasn't played in the playoffs. He didn't play more than half of the season. Kuminga, I wasn't as big on Kuminga as they need to play Kuminga like some people were saying, but I would play Gary Payton just because, for one, he's gonna be more consistent than Kuminga to me, because you know what he's gonna do, regardless of whether he's making a shot or not. But I think what Gary Payton brought that they was missing yesterday is the energy. That's another player that's gonna defend, so that helps with Jaylen Brown, because even though Jalen's taller than him, just Garrett GP's athletic ability alone is gonna help him in that matchup.
Right.
But then just as a guy that like I said, Draymond missed a lot of that little paint floaters or whatever, and that's a shot that Gary Payton, Bruce Brown for the Nets, those athletic point guards that know how to get in the paint, that they're making that like a staple for those type of players. And I think GP, if he gets those same shots, he makes them, and those buckets can help when you go through little droughts because you're piercing the paint, and then at the same time he's a point guard, so if you collapse on him, he can make a pass. So I definitely would try to find some minutes for Gary Payton. It's a final, so you're only going 8 deep now. So off the bench, he played Poole, Otto Porter, and Iguodala. So it's like, do you go a little bit deeper? Do you pull one of those players' rotation minutes? Like I said, Iguodala didn't. It wasn't that he played bad. Iguodala played 12 minutes. He had 7 points, 3 for 4 from the field. He made a solid pass, 3 assists. He played solid, but I just think it changed some things. And I would play Otto Porter because of his size and his shooting defensively. I would rather lose Iguodala out of the lineup than Otto Porter. But they went to they're gonna bring the same thing. And but they're going to Iguodala because of the championship core. But I would play Gary Payton. I would think about Kuminga, but I don't think Kuminga really makes the difference, because if you're playing Kuminga, people saying play Kuminga for defensive reasons. He's not coming in and changing the game defensively. He'll come in and change the game energy-wise and getting them big dunk. but I don't see him coming in and changing the game defensively.
Right. And like I say, Boston already up 1-0. The game is tonight, Sunday at 8 or 9.
They said 8 tonight, 8 on Sunday. You know, it's usually 9 during the week.
So when y'all hear this will be Monday at some point. Of course, we're not going to predict who's going to win because anything could happen, but that'll help either one of these teams win. But what would you like to see Boston do to get a win to go up 2-0 tonight?
For Boston, honestly, it's a bit of the same recipe. You withstand those threes from Steph or just from the Warriors, period. I feel like they did a good job of making sure, all right, Steph is going off and nobody else going off. Because usually, if Steph hit 6 threes in the first quarter, you think they down 10, right? 10, 15. But it was a solid game. They were within the Warriors the whole game. They had a lead at halftime. Obviously, the third quarter, that's when they broke it open a little bit, but still was able to withstand that. So, keep playing solid defense and honestly, you don't want Steph to just go crazy because Steph will win the game by himself, in my opinion. But kind of monitor what Steph doing, but making sure nobody else continues to go crazy. Keep making Draymond be a scorer. Don't let him pass the ball. Don't make him feel comfortable that he can make the pass. And honestly, with Jason Tatum, I just feel like he just shot the ball bad. I think they like all the shots that he got. Like, give or take. Obviously, there's always a few shots where you say, all right, you could have made that a little bit easier. Especially once you're missing shots, you're going to take a few tough ones because you're pressing a little bit. But I think I wouldn't bet on Jason Tatum going 3 for 17 again. Not to say that he's going to go like 12 for 15 or something, but I can see him going more 9 for 17 than 3 for 17 again. So, but continue to try to make it easier for Jason Tatum. Find him closer shots at the basket. I think more than anything, though, they just like his facilitating. So when the shots aren't falling, he's been such a willing passer and making the right passes. And that's all that matters. And people are giving him credit for his playmaking sometimes. And it's not even that he's doing nothing crazy, nothing to take away from him, but he's just making the right pass. This isn't falling for me. I'm seeing this and just kicking it to the person, and they helping him out by making that bucket. So continue to do that. And the main thing is, as long as Boston bigs continue to show that they can play in this series, you don't got to sub them out. You don't got to force to play small because Grant Williams isn't really giving you much right now. So, and that's the key to them playing small ball is when you make those lineups where Grant Williams is going to be out there. But as long as Al Horford's playing solid, Time Lord is giving you 5 blocks, 8 points. He had a couple of nice lobs that he caught. Their bigs showing that they are going to be able to play on the perimeter is going to be big for this series because the Warriors can't match their size for real. Like Kevon Looney is going to be an admirable matchup, and Draymond is going to play tough, obviously, but that they're not going big after that. So if I can keep Time Lord and Al Horford on the court, especially Al in particular, because Al has been an offensive center, they really can't, even at this age, you really can't guard Al Horford if you want to go get a bucket, or even, I saw a couple times where he didn't even get the bucket. He just bullied Draymond, and Draymond fouled him, and he got to the free throw line.
Right.
So, bigs keep showing your work on the perimeter. Make it a little easier for Jason Tatum, but overall, I liked his facilitating, and you want him to shoot better, but I'm honestly not mad at how he played. I thought his only 2 turnovers. He just didn't make shots, and that just happens sometimes, honestly. So keep putting Jason Tatum in the position that he's in, maybe a few easier ones, but I like how he played overall. And like I just said, withstand the storm of the threes because I feel like the Warriors going to come out hot.
And if you just for Golden State, what would you like to see them do to tie the series up at 1?
Well, the main thing, like you said from the start, is easier buckets for Jordan Poole. Maybe start looking into some packages where, all right, I'm going to play him with Steph a little more so he could play off the ball some. Because when you play him with Clay's clearly going to be off the ball. But just trying to find a way where the only time he's scoring isn't just when he's dribbling the ball. I probably would make my lineup a little deeper just because they're gonna play Iguodala. I wouldn't expect, especially he looked good out there. Curry isn't gonna stop playing him. You trust him; he can make the right plays. I probably would just stretch it out a little bit and go 9 because I'm playing GP. I think GP works in this lineup. They give you, especially when you wanna, they want to keep Draymond floating. I trust GP to guard Jaylen Brown. So play GP2 a little more. And honestly, find first of all, put the confidence in Wiggins to say, hey, just shoot it. You know what I mean? I know he probably knows they can shoot the ball, but they're probably going to need him to score a little more in this than before because he's going to get those favorable matchups. So when we go through these stretches and the three is not falling, they're playing you with Derek White, who's a respectable defender, not taking nothing away from Derek White, but Wiggins is 6'8". Derek White is 6'4". Is he that tall?
6'4".
Yeah, he doesn't seem like he's like 6'6" or 6'5". So finding ways to take advantage of Wiggins offensively and get him into the mindset of scoring 25 points. It doesn't even necessarily have to be 23. I feel like 5 more points helped the Warriors out the other night because they probably would have came in. It was some time we rewatched the game this morning, and there were a few times where they ran stuff, and I'm like, all right, this is when you need Wiggins to go get a bucket, or you need him to get a shot, and he did it. So now it's like doing that a little bit more. And that's what I want to see out of the Warriors for sure.
All right, but other than that, you got anything else?
Other than that, that's all I got for today. Just as always, appreciate the listeners. Looking forward to game 2 of the finals. Y'all hear this after game 2 has been played, so we'll see how close we came against some stuff in the ballpark. I feel like we did a good job the first game. So just as always, appreciate the listeners. You know, you can find us anywhere podcasts are available: Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all those cool places. You can find us on the Off the Ball Network's website. Just go to offtheballnetwork.com. Check out everything that's on there. Make sure you go to the YouTube and subscribe. Go to the Hoopers Pod. Just search the Hoopers Pod on YouTube. Go to the page, subscribe, like, comment, watch some old videos, watch some new videos. And then, of course, every Wednesday, the Hoopers afternoon session at 12 o'clock on the Off the Ball Network's Facebook page, the Hoopers YouTube page, and the Hoopers Twitter page. So make sure you catch that every Wednesday, 12 o'clock. And that's all I got.
Hey, I'm Jon Dubya.
That's Fresh X.
And we are the Hoopers.